Have you ever found yourself at the mercy of a person who is rude, pushy, or abusive? Speaking as someone who is autistic, there was once a time in my life where this happened all too often. Today, I want to explore the reasons why and what folks like us can do about it. Autistic individuals are especially vulnerable where it comes to being bullied and manipulated. This begins with the fact that many of us have low self-esteem. And it's hard not to, living as we do in ableist societies in which neurodiversity is seen as inferior. Autistics also tend to have a more deliberative thinking style. Practically speaking, this means we can struggle with reading others' intentions. We trust others and give them the benefit of the doubt, just as we would like the same to be done onto us. But these factors can damage our ability to say no when it matters most. Being able to advocate for ourselves is a fundamental skill, but it's also one that not all of us get the chance to develop. When we were growing up, our peers may have reacted negatively to our weird autistic traits and behaviors. They may have misinterpreted our words and actions, accusing us of being too honest, too blunt, too insensitive, too difficult to follow, and so on. Despite our best intentions, we were often told we were in the wrong. If this happens enough, we may begin to believe we are fundamentally broken, unworthy, and unlovable. So when confronted with bullies, we're more likely to second-guess our own feelings and thoughts and to spiral into helplessness. In these cases, we are faced with two conflicts. The first conflict is being able to recognize and validate our own perceptions about the situation we're in. If there is a history of having our actions criticized, this may bring up guilt, shame, discomfort, and anxiety. The second conflict is being able to speak our truth and to feel confident that we will be heard. The issue begins with the fact that in our day-to-day lives, as members of a marginalized group, we know that speaking up may lead to others shutting us down or even retaliating. So we're more likely to cave to others' demands in the hopes of being liked or of appeasing those we feel threatened by. Toxic people see this as you giving them the permission to linger on in your life, tainting your emotional well with negativity. In the book, Who's Pulling Your Strings?, Harriet B. Breaker describes 7 behavioral buttons that manipulators use to pressure and coerce their victims. Breaker argues that it is only by becoming aware of these buttons that we stand a chance of resisting bullies' control tactics. The first button is the disease to please. People with this challenge see their self-worth as being conditional upon them obeying others' expectations and demands. The second button is approval and acceptance addiction. Are you overly nice? Chances are you may be motivated by a fear of rejection and abandonment. Manipulators know that they can force you into following their orders by threatening to withdraw their approval and acceptance. The third button is the fear of negative emotions. Anger and sadness are a fundamental part of the human condition, and expressing negative emotions like this in the right context can be healthy. But when we bury these feelings, we're less likely to express and assert our boundaries, leaving ourselves open to attack. The fourth button is a lack of assertiveness. Typically, this looks like someone struggling to say no and to stand up for themselves. Number 5 is the vanishing self. If you have an unclear sense of identity, and if you don't know your core values, manipulators may use this to their own advantage. 6 is low self-reliance. Relying less on ourselves and more on the input and advice of others arises from chronic self-doubt. Number 7 is an external locus of control. Those with an external locus of control believe that forces outside of themselves are ultimately responsible for shaping their lives. In conflict situations, those with an external locus of control are more likely to fall back on learned helplessness. If you identify as having one or more of these buttons, don't despair. These buttons vanish when we heal, and we can do this through a supportive relationship, such as with a loved one or a therapist. The task of pushing back against manipulators, however, ultimately falls on us. We can begin by making explicit requests and seeking commitment. I statements are helpful here. For example, I feel disrespected when you name call. I'm asking that this behavior stop right now. Should the other person respond by deflecting, projecting, shaming, and/or verbally abusing you, know that they are trying to avoid responsibility. There are some individuals who feed off conflict, and anything you say or do that plays into this will count as a win in their books. Name any attacks on your person the instant they happen. Send a clear message to the bully that you won't stand for it. Do not be drawn into a point-for-point debate. If the bully makes a demand that you don't agree with, reply by saying, "That doesn't work for me. That's not fair, and I need to think about it." A straight no will even suffice. And if you're feeling a little bit uncertain about doing this, practice in advance. If the bully tries to force an argument, you can always say, "This conversation is not productive. I'm leaving now." Know that if the bully fails to treat you with common courtesy, you have cause to walk away. When bullies respond by escalating or accusing, this can inflame our existing feelings of low self-worth. So it's important that we check in with ourselves immediately after such encounters. You can address any self-doubt you might be feeling by imagining a good friend making the same request you made of the bully. Would you have listened to them? Would you have been open to change? If your answer is yes, then your request was probably a fair one, and you should cut yourself a break. After a lifetime of taking on others' unfair judgments, it's the least we can do for ourselves.